What's up, y'all? It's Travis Fowler, Hark Rider with the Four Corner Post, and this week starts our new series here with Four Corner Post on YouTube, which is telling you what we believe is the best wrestling show each and every week. Now, remember last week I did lay out the criteria, but as a recap, we are going to be reviewing 4 shows: Raw, Smackdown, Impact Wrestling, and AEW Dynamite. The criteria for that is because each show is at least 2 hours long, and remember, I will be watching the Hulu version of Raw since it's shortened down to an hour and a half, which would equate to a normal 2-hour runtime if it also involved commercials. Reason NXT is not involved in this discussion is simply because they are now being viewed once again as a developmental brand. So to put that up against your main shows would actually be a little unfair to NXT. So, with that in mind, we're going to jump right into this week's action, and we're going to do a quick recap over all 4 shows, with the ending result being what I believe was the best show for this week. We can't help but talk about WWE after the Royal Rumble. We had the fallout this week for both Raw and SmackDown. Starting with Raw, we saw an announcement of an Elimination Chamber match for the WWE Championship after Brock Lesnar stormed on, demanding his title rematch. Normally, I'm okay with asking for your title rematch considering you're the former champion, but what's interesting about this chamber is that some people could just declare their entry into the chamber while others had to actually fight their way to it. I'm not a fan of that. Really inconsistent booking when you're trying to actually put some meaning behind your chamber match, your important WWE title chamber match at that. Also on Raw for notoriety, we saw the return of Ronda Rousey, who was just looking to show up, show her face, and get out because she didn't really announce anything other than that she was going to make her WrestleMania decision on Smackdown. Not on Raw, but on Smackdown. So she was just coming to say, hey Becky, what's up girl? Watch me on Friday. The only other saving grace for Raw this week was that there was a good match in the form of Styles and Mysterio. It wasn't as fast-paced as you would expect from these two, strictly because they're a little bit past that time in their careers. Had this been maybe 10 years ago, 15 years ago, I would have expected a barn burner fast-paced match. What we got was a little bit more technically sound with a couple of good spots in it, but overall it was a good match, just not maybe to the level of expectancy that I had for it, or maybe a few others too. But that brings me into SmackDown, which really didn't fare too much better. It makes me wonder if Shane McMahon actually wrote both shows for this week. We saw Reigns and Heyman come out with the Usos to do a Bloodline promo talking about how Heyman wasn't trying to fool the audience and that he really did walk away, yada yada yada, all that nice jazz. It kind of was just dragging on a little too long, but out comes Goldberg. That's right. In Oklahoma City, you bring back the Oklahoma boy, even though you could have semi-done that 2 weeks prior when his actual hometown had Raw, but whatever, I digress, and maybe a little bitter. But who cares? I'm not going to go that far into it. They start off there saying that they are going to face off in the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view, or excuse me, premium live event, which is going to be in Saudi Arabia. And it will be the WrestleMania match that we didn't get. Goldberg versus Reigns for the Universal title. Really, does anybody care though? I mean, seriously, I'm growing up saying that I was a Goldberg fan, but at this point, he's done. I get it, maybe this is his last match as part of his contract, but that really needs to be it, because at this point, this is WWE's biggest problem, is that they're not really sticking to the formula that they once did, which was building new stars. You keep the same stars in the same spot. You bring back the nostalgia acts for a ratings pop, and that's all. And it's really disappointing because I really can't see anybody being a huge major star. I mean, Big E was on SmackDown with the New Day tag team again because reportedly they only see him as a tag team guy. His singles run is now done and over with before it really even got started. Like, what was really the point in us investing in his Money in the Bank win and becoming WWE champion with a disappointing title run that he's not even going to challenge for a title rematch? It's just frustrating as a fan. It really is. Smackdown, of course, ended with Rousey coming out and announcing her WrestleMania challenger, which proved all the rumors right, that it will be Rousey versus Flair, which we have seen that match before, and it was a good match. I can only hope that by the time Mania gets here, Rousey has a little bit more time to knock the ring rust off, because if her performance is anything of what we saw in the Rumble, I think we're looking at another disappointing main event for WrestleMania. Which, by the way, this is your do-over, WWE, for the WrestleMania you gave us in Dallas for 32. So please do me a favor as somebody who's going back, hoping that you make up for it. Make it a good 2 nights of WrestleMania. Right now, it's not necessarily setting the world on fire. Even with your probable WWE Universal title unification, winner-take-all match, whatever you want to call it. I don't think people really care to see that either. Moving on now to the final 2 shows that I believe are so neck and neck when it comes to content and when it comes to providing great wrestling shows. It was really hard for me to choose between the 2, but one did eke out a little bit further than the other. I would have to say, however, that AEW Dynamite put on a great show this week. They had the main event of MJF versus CM Punk, which was built up very well and ended up handing Punk his first official loss on TV, along with Dan Lambert coming out twice to a not so well received heel promo with him and Brandy. I really think they are trying to play Brandy up as a heel. That's kind of what they've been alluding to for a while, but I don't know if they really executed that well. But that's okay, minor thing. We saw the world title match set up there between Adam Page and Lance Archer going into their Texas Death Match next week. That should be a good matchup, as they had a good way to build towards that match for the next week. And a great spot with Page getting slammed on steps, which looked like it was brutal. Great tag team match between Black and King, the Knights, or the House of Black, whichever one they want to call themselves, or Kings of the Black Throne too. See, even I can't get it right. Why can I expect the AEW banners to get their tag team name right too? But it was a good match between them and 2 members of the Death Triangle, Pac and Penta El Zero Miedo. Good tag team match. Hopefully this feud does continue. I do think it does. Also, we saw a great promo between Bryan Danielson and Jon Moxley, where Mox is being presented with the idea of teaming up with Danielson to form their own little stable and help build some new stars in AEW. We'll see where this goes. I'm pretty much guessing it's going to lead to Jon Moxley versus Bryan Danielson, which is what the tournament final was supposed to be for Full Gear, but I do see that as being the logical step that they take. That all said, the best wrestling show this week, and for a while, really consistently now, is Impact Wrestling. Impact has been knocking it out of the park as of late, especially with their Honor No More storyline. For those that don't know or haven't tuned in, you really should. Honor No More is a group now made up of 6, counting Maria Kanellis, former Ring of Honor stars that are now here in Impact Wrestling for a hostile takeover-like storyline, which is working. You do see some Ring of Honor guys coming out saying we have no connection to them, they're doing their own thing, they're a band of renegades, and they're out here saying each and every week that we just don't care, we're coming out here and running things. Great storyline building up to No Surrender between the 5-man teams of Impact Wrestling and of Honor No More. It'll be a good matchup, I'm pretty sure of that, especially with those involved. You also have the continuation story of the Bullet Club showing up here on stateside, which is leading to the tag team match at No Surrender that I've been waiting for. The Good Brothers versus the GOD, Gorillas of Destiny, for the Impact tag team titles. That's how the show went off the air, was a big brawl between Violent by Design, VVD, and the Good Brothers, coming out and taking out the Bullet Club. That also has led to VBD's Eric Young taking on the Bullet Club leader Jay White at No Surrender. That's going to be a fun match as well. We also have seen consistency with the world title picture as W. Morrissey continues to stalk the champion and self-proclaimed wrestling god, which I feel like I've heard that somewhere before. They will face off for the Impact World's title at No Surrender, along with Mickie James taking on Tasha Steelz for the Knockouts title, with Tasha Steelz cashing in her contract opportunity that she won from the Ultimate X match at Hard to Kill. There's just so much good, consistent storytelling from this brand every single week. It just gets more compelling, more interesting, and honestly, if you haven't been watching, I strongly urge you to tune in now. Great stories. The one thing that they've been doing also that's been better than everybody else is they're constantly introducing you to new people and building new characters. Miasha Slamovich, for instance, is a new knockout for them. They've been making her look like a beast over there. It's been great to see. They're capitalizing on the talent that were released that they signed from WWE, and they have been making them very relevant, but not overstaying their welcome. It's a great formula that Impact Wrestling has, and I can't sing their praises enough as somebody who grew up watching their heydays, arguably from 2006 to 2011, all the way now to this now renaissance for Impact Wrestling in 2021 and now into 2022. I highly encourage every single person, start watching Impact Wrestling. You won't regret it. Well, that was my selection for the best wrestling show this week. What did you think was the best wrestling show between the four? Let me know in the comments section down below. And also, if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel here, where you will also need to hit that like button because, you know, it's hard not to like us. And make sure you share us as well, and hit your little bell notification so that you're notified anytime we upload a video to the channel. Visit us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and get back here next week for the next edition of Best Wrestling Show of the Week. I'm Travis Fowler Harkrider, and I will see you guys next week.